A library records the history of people, places, and things. And the Old Testament, with its 39 books, is kind of like a library. It records the history of people who lived by faith. They made daily faith decisions. And you can say that they're really in the cloud, because when it comes to Hebrews, the great faith chapter, it says that we are surrounded by a cloud of witnesses. And in this next sketch, we're going to go through an Old Testament chart that I think you're really going to enjoy. There are many great libraries in the world, but none greater than the 66 books that make up the one book, the only book that God ever wrote. We turn now to sketch number 6, the Old Testament chart. You can use this sketch to track the two genealogies of Christ in Matthew and Luke, or you can discuss the redemptive work of God in history, or the nation of Israel, and many other things. We use this chart to show the importance of faith as revealed in Hebrews 11, the great cloud of examples who lived by faith before us. If you take 3 verses, verse 1, verse 3, and verse 6, you can put them together and come up with a very good understanding of the word faith. Faith is a confidence in what we hope for, an assurance of what we do not see. Faith is what is seen was made out of the invisible. Faith, without it, it is impossible to please God, because anyone who comes to God must believe that He exists and that He rewards those who earnestly seek Him. This is the best Old Testament chart I've ever seen. It talks about the faith of the Old Testament believers. It says they're a cloud of witnesses. We start with Adam, and then of course the fall, and then we have Noah's Ark, and then we have the Tower of Babel. And I'm doing this so that you can see how easy this is to sketch out. And then the father of the Jews, Abraham, his son Isaac, his son Jacob, and of course the 10 sons sold the man named Joseph down into Egypt, and they left baby Ben at home. And then the deliverer, after about 400 years, Moses, through the wanderings, came up and Joshua led them into the land. Well, then they had the period of the Judges, and during the Judges was the great love story of Ruth. At the end of the Judges, you had the prophet, priest, and king. His name was Samuel, and he was the king anointer. And then you had the United Kingdom, Saul, David, and Solomon. When Solomon died, he left the kingdom split between his 2 sons, Jeroboam and Rehoboam. Israel, 10 tribes in the north, led by Jeroboam, and Judah, led by Rehoboam in the south. And it was the big tribe of Judah and the little tribe of Benjamin. And then in 722, the Assyrian Empire took over Israel, and we call that the 10 lost tribes of Israel. And then in 586, Babylon carried away Judah, and they took him into the 70-year captivity. After the captivity, there were 3 people that led people back into the land. One was Zerubbabel, and he came back and built the temple. One was Ezra, and he came back. He was the scribe who preached to the people. He set up a pile of wood, and that's where we get the idea of a pulpit. And then there was Nehemiah. He came back, and of course, he rebuilt the walls. After this time, there were 400 silent years, and then we have the birth of Christ. Now, we've taken the chart and divided it up into 3 sections, and we've used letters at the bottom to give you hints, because we'd like you to be able to draw this in one sequence. So the first one is by faith Abel, and you can find him in this section, and Enoch, and Noah, and by faith Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. By faith Joseph, and by faith Moses. In the next section, it says in verse 29, by faith the people crossed through the Red Sea, and by faith the prostitute Rahab welcomed the spies. And then during the Judges, by faith Gideon and Barak and Samson and Jephthah. And then during the United Kingdom, and about David and the king anointer Samuel and the prophets. In the third section, those who live by faith conquered kingdoms and administered justice. They shut the mouths of lions and quenched the fiery flames. They escaped the sword. Their weakness was turned to strength. They became powerful in battle. They routed armies. Some were tortured, some jeered, flogged, chained, imprisoned, some stoned, cut in 2, killed by the sword. Some wore sheepskins. They were destitute, persecuted, mistreated, wandered in deserts. Well, this is the great cloud, it says in Hebrews 12:1, we are surrounded by these great people, this cloud of faith. So therefore, let us throw off everything that hinders us and the sin that so easily entangles us, and let us run with perseverance the race marked out for us. This is a great encouragement. So please write your answers to the 3 questions and then move on to sketch number 7.